UiPath Fusion Agentic AI meets ROI Bengaluru.
Gaurav, Omega is one of the largest RCM providers out there, worldwide even, right? You've been on the UiPath journey for years. You've really scaled your bots. You have a big footprint of technology, under your purview. How did you approach scaling this impact to the next order of magnitude than just like scaling linearly?
The journey has been phenomenal so far. We've realized some significant advantages with whatever we've done so far, but the realization was that we were replacing A with B, right? As we deployed those bots, and we literally had an invisible factory going. But what we realized is while it is impacting margins, is it truly making an impact on outcomes for Omega and for its customers? And which is where we said instead of looking at activities, actions, or a next step, can we look at delivering outcomes more meaningfully for our customers? That is where we started evaluating the agentic framework. And I'm very happy to say that we have one use case already in production, two going live as early as this month. So we'll have total of three, and the outcomes have become much more predictable, right? The handovers are more predictable between man and machine and back and forth. The intent and willingness, along with keeping a big picture vision, that it's not about what are you automating as a next step, but what are you looking for as an outcome, is going to drive this journey for all of us.
Anitha, Coronis is moving very fast, right? You closed one of our first agentic deals in India. You're the head of automation, right? So you skipped an entire generation of furthering on automation and stepped up the game to adopting agents. Please share how you did that, what prompted that.
Sure. So actually, we started our journey. We realized very early that bots will not take us to the point where we really need to be. We did a lot of repetitive actions. We automated a lot of repetitive actions. But the real challenge in RCM healthcare sector is decision making, and then exceptional handlings. Those things are really a very big challenge in the RCM healthcare sector. So from there, we left out with two options. Do you want to wait for the technology to get mature, or you want to come early and then learn fast and then move forward? And we chose the option to speed up. The reason why we moved is like, when we reach out to the clients, they normally used to ask like, their expectation is, we need faster outcome, better accuracy, and we want to scale up fast without increasing the headcount. That's what their expectation is. Considering all this scenario, rather than building hundreds of bots, we lean across to the agentic orchestration and we move forward. That's the main reason for it.
Makes sense. You gotta not be afraid. Thank you for leading the way. Balaji, you are an AI 25 winner from APAC. You've had AI embedded in your organization since 2021. Right. Now moving into agentic orchestration, what consistent investment made it possible that you have an advantage that competitors can't replicate?
Right. So just for the general audience, healthcare RCM, when we talk about it, it's broadly divided into three segments. The front end, where the patient comes in, appointment happens, or get admitted in the hospital, and so on. Then the care happens. Then the mid-cycle comes in, where the treatment procedures gets into codes, and the hospitals apply for reimbursement from the payers, the insurance companies. Then the back end is where the whole accounts receivables happen, claims are followed up or denied or whatsoever, right? So these are three broad areas. And AGS, at AGS, well before the LLM revolution began, we focused on the mid-cycle, which is ready for disruption. We acquired an AI company, right, for computer-assisted coding, which worked on, ML-based algorithms, NLP, knowledge graph, and the whole 9 yards. So we started on that. Then the LLM revolution happened. Generative AI started picking up. That's when we decided to move on to the front end for document processing and partnered with UiPath, of course. That was the item for AI 25 award winner.
Nice.
So we built an end-to-end agentic platform for processing millions of clinical documents, understanding the context of the document, and then prepare it for human oversight, human approval, and so on, and then to get onto the document workflow. So overall, I think where AI has got us today, it's important that we need right partners on the way to guide us. And the important part is not just adding AI as an admixture to existing efficiencies. It's reimagining the entire workflow and the orchestration around AI. Models are easy. Orchestration is not.
Nice, thank you. Back to you, Gaurav. So when you operate at scale, you can't pilot your way to transformation, right? How did you make that leaps from running a large fleet of automations to incorporating agents and orchestrating work across all the systems and people even? And how did you embark on that and roll it out end to end?
So that's a great question, and that transition is where I see a lot of our colleagues in their journey. There are two clear approaches. One, you try something small, see if it works. If it works, you continuously scale it. The other option was you go big bang. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, you shut it down, start working on something else. So the approach that we're now taking is the second approach, where we are saying, hey, the time of this POC is gone. We understand the underlying infrastructure, the orchestration layers, etc. They work, right? We're beyond that point of doubt. It works. All we have to now do is build solutions on top of it. And given that organizations like whether it's Omega Healthcare, Coronis, AGS, we've all been around for a while now, right? So the domain expertise that exists is now being deployed into building well thought through, well designed agentic workflows that are modular in nature, loosely coupled such that they can be repurposed for exceptions and variations, because that's the nature of the industry we work in. So much so that last week we heard one of the largest insurance companies said, oh, we don't need prior auth anymore for 30% of our cases.
Nice.
Now here we are building this huge agentic orchestration workflow, and one of the largest players comes and says, oh, by the way, we don't need it anymore. So now we're looking at this workflow and saying, thank God we built it modular. So we're going to discard maybe two pieces and still use the rest of it. So I think that's a strategy one has to go with. It depends on how much domain expertise exists within the organization, a little bit of risk-taking capability as well, and then a deep relationship with the partner you're working with. In our case, it's been UiPath. So I think we've had a good relationship going for a while now. So we were able to take the riskier approach, and so far it looks like it's working.
Nice. Yeah, I think the world is really embracing the pace and fast mover advantage and doing it with the maturity that you described, with both the domain knowledge of your space and the technological maturity of modularization. Makes sense.
Yes, and Anitha said it absolutely right. The customers want it yesterday evening.
Yes.
If I'm thinking of it today, why did you not build it yesterday?
So, Anitha, again, rather than replacing RPA with agents, right, you went for a bigger problem, right? Some people fall in the trap of looking at what's already done in a new lens, but you step back and really looked at what does this allow you to tackle, right? What made you realize that agents are not just a better bot or a better tool for automation, but they're actually a key to unlocking something bigger, something that you couldn't do before.
I would say like agents are very good at when we have an fixed rules and then the concrete way, the step-by-step procedures to follow, the bots are the best. But I would say the agents are not the smarter version of bots. Agents do more than that. It includes, for example, the context understanding, and after understanding the context, it will give you the best approach, and then it will also suggest you the orchestrative view, how you want to move on. So, as mentioned by our friend, all of a sudden the client comes and say like, no, we don't want a pre-approver, authorization process and other stuff. So we need to be capable enough to handle all the scenario changes, exceptional changes. Those things the bot will not be able to do. The agents can do it because agents having the understanding and capability of understanding the concepts, giving out the outputs, suggestions, and then taking it to the orchestration level, that can do it. And more than that, we should always think about our question, and then the approach should change like what we need to do automate, what process needs to be automated, what task needs to be. Stop thinking about that and think about where we need to redesign our end-to-end process. That's how we will be able to achieve. So our thought process has been think in that way, and that unlocks us to move into the agentic thing.
UiPath Fusion Agentic AI meets ROI Bengaluru. UiPath Fusion Agentic AI meets ROI Bengaluru.
Balaji, for you. So AI is one part to talk about, right? But there's a lot of other things I'm sure had to change inside AGS, in your operations, in your people, in your client relationships, right? Before AI could create value. How was that journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, as I was telling, deploying models is easy. You know, hyperscalers and others, UiPath, it's making deploying agents easier, right? The real thing is how you change the entire foundation that supports it at an organization level. So what we have to come up with a new operating model for including operations, including transformation teams who know the process excellence, the efficiencies, inefficiencies, right? And then bring in technologists, subject matter experts to create the new foundation for this. And last but not least, partners with skin in the game, right? So that's what I keep telling to everyone in every UiPath event. I say this: UiPath comes in as a consultative partner for us, not just sell licenses and run, right? So that also makes a huge difference because you cannot do it all alone. You need partners in this game, right? So when you involve all these parties and do the real thinking part before you deploy technology, then you end up with the AI native end-to-end system rather than a piecemeal system where AI is just added.
Makes sense. So you actually invested in process experts, and of course picked a partner that can really be there. Thank you. Moving on, coming back to you, Gaurav. Omega's business is expanding. Like, you've set your eyes larger than RCM services and expanding your platform conversation with your clients. What does going up that value chain mean for you in terms of business to Omega?
Going up the value chain actually means a lot of things at different levels. If you talk about the conversations that we are now able to have with customers, we're going in and saying, it's no longer about how can I reduce your cost. We walk into the CFO's office with a different question. What outcomes can we improve for you? Right? Where would an impact really make the most value for your organization? We're moving into more risk-sharing agreements with our customers, where we are saying, hey, we have skin in the game. It's no longer just about us providing you warm bodies or getting, these transactions done in a timely, high accurate manner. And the way I like to put it is, we've all heard about, this phrase that customers not buying the drill, they're buying the hole, right? So we kind of want to take it to the next level and say, hey, we're not selling you the shovel. We're not even selling you the hole. We're going to bring the shovel, dig the hole, plant the tree, make sure you get the fruits, and by the way, we get a share of the fruits. Right? So that requires a significant amount of efficacy, efficiency, and predictability. All three at the same time, which is what we are now able to drive with this combination of agentic, automation, LLMs, and of course, human in the loop. There's no way the human is becoming indispensable, right? So in healthcare, we always say we're not dealing with claims, we're dealing with people's lives. We remind that to ourselves every day we walk into the office, right? Let's be serious. Let's make sure we're not doing harm. So that change is coming in. Internally, it's about educating our people that AI is not here to take your jobs. AI is here to make you more empowered to do better things. Because believe it or not, in services industry, there is a large chunk of people who's just doing the same thing day in, day out. They come in, process the claim. And as funny as it is, we're talking about denied claims here. We have teams that work on 100 denied claims of the exact same kind. That's all they do in their shift every day. Right? We want to empower them to move up the value chain and say, hey, I'm going to monitor this AI, train this AI, or be a part of this workflow where I am doing things where my brain is used, not just my hands are used. So that's another second significant change. Third is driving conversations with customers where they are concerned about AI going berserk. Right? So we have to explain that, there are guardrails, there are evals happening, there are enough and more restrictions that we have placed where each agent is doing just one thing and doing it really well. But then there is suddenly a checkpoint, there's a toll gate, we talk about confidence scores, etc., etc. And we have to make sure that the customers understand the notion of explainable AI and responsible AI, especially in case of healthcare. So there's a lot of changes that we had to drive in. But I think the results are speaking for themselves. And customers are saying, if this is the kind of outcome that we can get, let's sit and have a conversation.
Nice.
2 years ago, everybody wanted AI. Nobody was willing to give data to train the AI. Now those conversations are also changing. So it's moving in the right direction.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you actually are aligning with your customers' outcomes. There's a term in the industry called business for business, right? So incentives are aligned. That's awesome, and I loved hearing how you talked about even redeploying talent and thinking about going up the value chain for them, right? Like how our new roles mean for them. Anitha, if you fast forward 18 months from now, with all the transformation you've been doing, are there things or work that Coronis will simply not be doing anymore? What will you be doing instead that you couldn't do today?
18 months from now, I would say we will be stop doing the repetitive actions, the traditional way of human dependency. We will stop those things. We will, I would not say we will 100% stop it. We will reduce it to as minimum as we can. And then we will focus more on the automation things, that is building up the strategy, looking into the insights, and speaking to the clients on the outcomes. We will focus on those areas and then we will bring it. So if you want me to answer in a single way, less traditional work, more strategy-based work. So that's how we are looking for in next 18 months in Coronis.
Balaji, are there things that you're doing now with your clients, like the conversations you're having with your clients, that you just couldn't do a couple of years ago maybe?
not only RCM services business, any services business for that matter, is basically bases itself in cost arbitrage, right? So the labor is cheap somewhere else, so you can have more people for the same money, so your throughput increases, right? And your productivity increase, and you end up in better savings. So that's the logic that is driving this whole industry, right? Now, with AI coming into the reasoning part of it, right? Before even getting into that, usually, so as a services organization, what is my incentive for automating? By automating tasks, am I trying to cannibalize my, top level revenues? Because I'm based on FTE, right? What is my incentive? So then clients think the same thing. Clients are super smart. They figure out, these guys are not employing enough automations, right? Because they want to keep the FTE revenues. But AI is actually solving this in a nice way. Number one, as the world is more and more trusting some of the reasoning capabilities, not all, some of the reasoning capabilities of AI and all, right? So we were able to have these open conversations with the client saying that, hey, we will come in and prove you on outcomes, right? Rather than, number of, files handled by an FTE. Right? We say like, hey, we will reduce your cost to collect, right? We will reduce your denials for your claims. So that way, we are also able to keep the right kind of KRAs for ourselves, right? One is the benefits on meeting and exceeding client outcomes. Second is our own EBITDA lift, right? So these conversations are now possible.
The conversation about automation has really shifted in the last couple of years. Just looking at the titles here of each of you, you can see the diversity and the expansion of focus when it comes to automation. We're deeply grateful that we've earned your trust to partner with us and for you to join us on stage and share your journey with other customers and other colleagues of yours. I want to summarize what I heard. They're all in similar domain. Even so, they have very different starting points, right? 3 different starting points, 3 different vantages in which they, did the journey. But the common thing is each one of them has set their eyes nothing lower than a big transformation. It's time. You can achieve it. If you can imagine it, you can achieve it. And each of you really shared the kind of transformation that you're already achieving and are on the cusp of realizing the benefit for yourself, for your customers. Thank you for joining us.
UiPath Fusion Agentic AI meets ROI Bengaluru.